Hello and welcome to the Ranching Returns podcast, where we believe that when done right, your return on ranching can be far more than just extreme profitability, but a return to your land resource as well as a priceless lifestyle. Hey folks, welcome back to the Ranching Returns podcast, sponsored by Faro Cattle Company. Some kind of fun or exciting events happening with Faro Cattle Company every year, well, I guess twice a year, before the spring and before the fall bull sales. They have what they call bull evaluation days, where Kit or someone from the team or a few people from the team, they go and essentially physically and visually evaluate every single bull that's going to be in the sale this fall. If that's something you're interested in checking out, there's an open invitation for everyone to come out to the ranches where these bulls are being developed and see these bulls and see how they're evaluated, see how Kit and the team look at these bulls and try to learn yourself how to evaluate bulls and the things that we're looking for. Really fun also just to get around these guys and see it. So if I am able to make it, which I'm hoping to, I'm hoping to make it to the Nebraska Bull Evaluation Day here in August. And if you can make it as well, I'd love to meet you. But if you're interested in doing that, check out more information at farocattle.com. Today's episode is with Brett Mcrae, a really fun episode. This guy I've been trying to get on for a while. He's a busy guy. But we finally got it knocked out. And Brett Mcrae is a mixed operation cattle and crop operation from Canada. We talk a lot about his growing of his operation, changing major enterprises from seedstock to commercial cow-calf, expanding and making his operation portable and agile so that he can take land opportunities that aren't close by. And we talk about how he does that. And a lot of really good stuff in this episode that I hope you enjoy. Before we dive into the episode, there was one more thing I was going to share with you. It was another one of my kind of takeaways from the week here, and it actually happened this morning at church. At our church during the offering, while the offering plate was being passed, they played a music video. It was Casting Crowns, Only Jesus. In this music video, the words were there. I've heard the song, I don't know how many times, probably hundreds of times in my lifetime. Never really stuck out to me the way that it did today. But I encourage you to all go listen to the song and read the lyrics and really think about what they say. It hit me, like I said, a little more different this time. And I'm just going to read the words from the refrain. It goes, I don't want to leave a legacy. I don't care if they remember me, only Jesus. And I've only got one life to live. I'll let every second point to him, only Jesus. And continues through the verses and everything, talking essentially about how, all the things we can do in this world and the things that we, can accomplish, those aren't the legacy that matters. In fact, it's probably a distraction from things that matter. And the only legacy that this individual, singing the song anyway, and wants to leave is pointing people to Jesus. And like I said, I've heard that, never hit me like it has this morning. It was, I don't remember how long ago here, I was interviewed on a podcast. They asked me, what do you want your legacy to be? And, I and probably a lot of people, we talk about our legacies being this farm business. And, it might be land specifically. It might be the business you want your kids to, take it over someday. It might be your kids themselves that you view as your legacy, or the wisdom that you pass on, or, information and character. And all those things are good, and we shouldn't ignore those for sure. I'm not saying don't worry about your kids. It doesn't matter. But that shouldn't be the focus of the legacy we want to leave. And the way the words that this song sings is, I don't care if they remember me at all. And it just made a lot of sense to me. And in this world, the one thing that I want to do is to bring more people to Jesus. And if I can do that, again, it doesn't matter if they think about my role in that at all. The most important thing is Jesus. And so I'll continue to offer this as an open invitation to everyone out there, that if you have questions about your faith, questions about Jesus and the importance of that and why it matters so much to me, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have that conversation. And for those of you Christians out there listening to this as well, I'd encourage you to think about what leaving that legacy means within your life. What are you doing? What are you saying? How are you acting around people to leave a legacy that points people to Jesus? So with that, we're going to dive into today's episode with Brett Mcrae. I hope that you enjoyed it. It's a fun conversation. And actually, before we dive into that episode, I do want to point out too, at the end of this episode is another one of my content segments with Charles Ralla from Noble Research Institute. And it was a good conversation we had talking about stock density and stocking rates, and then varying stocking rate. Just a really important conversation for grass managers who want to improve their grass management, understand carrying capacity, stocking rates, and grass management in that regard. So well worth listening to that chunk at the end of this conversation as well. So when you hear me wrap up the conversation with Brett, do not leave, keep listening, and that will dive right into the conversation with Charles. With that, we will now get into today's episode with Brett Mcrae. Brett, thanks so much for joining me, and welcome to the Ranching Returns podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor. I've listened to your podcast quite a bit.
Well, I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you coming on. It's I followed you on social media and listened to you on at least one other Working Cows podcast, I think. I'm not sure if you've been on others and stuff, but looking forward to sharing a bit of your story and learning a little bit more as we dive into it. For folks who haven't heard of you, maybe give an overview of your operation as it sits today, and then I'd love to kind of dive back into the history. I mean, is this a multi-generational place, and what's kind of been the progression of enterprises over the generations and whatnot? So I guess, start with today. Yeah.
So we have a really, I guess, a dynamic business that's built to be mobile and modular. Sure. We have a very dynamic business that's built to be mobile and modular. As we've expanded and built our business, kind of just as it's grown, we've had to increase our radius of where we farm. And then we've really leaned into that heavily and built our business to be, basically we farm wherever the land is. Really? We're not really in one location. We're spread out over 70 or 80 miles, probably corner to corner, and pasture land would be farther than that.
Okay.
So we're kind of like, some days like a oil field drilling rig, some days more like a traveling circus, but we show up wherever we go and farm there and move on to the next spot.
Okay. And as far as enterprises, it's mix of row crops and cattle then?
Yeah. So we have commercial cow-calf and replacement heifer enterprise. And then we run cash crops, broad acre cash crops. And we also have some on-farm manufacturing that we do.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is the problem when I ask about, give an overview. I've already got questions, but I still want to hear a bit of the history and stuff too. So I'll put those questions off for a little bit. We'll dive into those in a little bit, I'm sure. My assumption or understanding is this is not a first generation ranch. It's multi-generational. Your family's been in the business for a while. What's been the progression of, it sounds like it kind of changed with expansion, but where did it start? How long ago? Do you know much about the history of the operation, I guess?
So I would be the fourth or fifth generation Mcrae to farm where we live right now is a mile away from the original Mcrae homestead that my great grandpa would have homesteaded.
Sure.
And then his son farmed there. I had 5 children. 3 of the boys continued to farm, and just the way it worked out, one boy had the home section, one boy took the section to the east, and then my grandpa took the section to the west.
Okay.
And then we still, my dad still farms some of that land. The middle section, the home section, that brother actually passed away in a car wreck. So then the other 2 farm that land and have ever since.
Sure.
So when my wife and I got married, we actually got married in the original Mcrae homestead, which was kind of cool.
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so when those brothers, their farms kind of worked their way into 2 separate operations.
Mm-hmm.
My grandpa had purebred cattle, and then my mom and dad have grown up with purebred cattle. Both of them, my mom had my mom's family had a purebred operation as well. They had purebred shorthorns and Herefords, and then dad had purebred Black Angus and Simmentals, which kind of evolved and changed over the years. And then my mom and dad got married. Dad's joke is he had to marry her because she kept beating him. I think something along the lines of that.
Okay.
I think there's a hot rivalry, and then all of a sudden they teamed up together.
Sure.
So they've had purebred cattle forever, basically.
Yeah.
And have some really, really good red. They're probably some of the leading red Angus breeders in Canada. They've also had some Black Angus and Simmentals, still have some Simmentals over the years, but
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then, so I grew up in the purebred industry. We've always had some cash crops. We've been a mixed farm forever.
Okay.
So, and that's what we've grown up with is both cattle and grain land.
Yeah.
And you kind of just figure out what works, and that's what you do.
Right. So when did you come into the operation, and because you're no longer, you mentioned your commercial cow-calf, you're no longer purebred. Where did that transition take place, and when did you fall into it?
So It's hard to say where I started because I've just always been involved in the farm in some
Right.
aspect.
Yeah.
I think my first land was in 2007. My uncle got sick and I rented up some land from him,
Okay.
which I still farm now. And then in 2012, I quit my job. I was working in town, quit working off the farm to come and farm full time. And then in 2014, kind of where my career really, I would say the big starting point for my career was in 2014. I was lucky enough to be awarded a Cattleman's Young Leader Scholarship.
Okay.
And the CYL program in Canada, I can't remember how many applicants they take a year, but you go through, you have to write in a resume, you get selected. The finalists go to a meeting. I can't remember where, I think it's at the beef industry conference now, but you go to a meeting to get selected and they whittle that down, however many if it's 30 kids or whatever, and take the top 15, or I can't remember what the numbers are now, but
right.
You have to go through a selection criteria process. And then once you're selected as a CYL delegate, you get paired up with a mentor. They give you a little bit of spending money to help with travel and stuff. But the big thing is they pair you up with a mentor specifically tailored to your interests and then help you get started that way. So I got paired up with Steve Kenyon from,
nice.
Used to be Busby, Alberta. So Greener Pastures Ranching.
Yep. Yeah. No, I've had him. He's been a past guest and a well-known one probably in this realm. So that probably... Well, I don't know how your family was before, but certainly that kind of a mentor has the ability to probably shift how you're thinking if you're not already in that way of thinking.
Yeah, no, it was really good because when I first met with Steve, I was like, okay, well, here's my goals. Here's what we're thinking doing. He's like, perfect. Well, first off, take my school. I was like, okay, that's a given.
Yeah. Right.
Second, take Ranching for Profit. Perfect. That was kind of already on my wish list.
Sure.
And third, read Alan Savory's book on holistic management.
Okay.
And so that's where we started. And then, obviously we learned and grew and walk a mile, see a mile, and learned a lot from there.
Right. Right.
I did like about halfway through the year, he said, so have you used the holistic management decision-making process to decide whether you should keep reading to the end of the book? I was like, yeah, I'm about at that point. It gets a little dry in the middle.
Yeah, I was wondering how I've not managed to read the whole book yet. I was going to ask if you had, but it sounds like maybe not.
Yeah, I think that and Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People are the only two I haven't been able to just push all the way through.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Get up in the middle.
Right. No, that's fair. I'm with you on both of those, I think, actually. And it's funny because both of those have been recommended multiple times as resource lists. So somebody's reading all the way through them anyway.
Yeah, like totally good books. They're just...
Absolutely.
It'd be tough to read if you're not into it.
Right. Yeah. And this is getting off topic. My mind works best in books like Dave Pratt's most recent one, The Turnaround, that's more told in the story. That's such a readable format to get all that information. Like if every book could pack as much information into such an easy way to read like that, I would be a much bigger reader, but I struggle otherwise with more of the textbook or style. So no, that's good. So you were farming and ranching at this time while working with Steve at full time. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So at that point, I had a small herd of purebred cattle.
Okay.
And then a little bit of grain land that we did, like very, very small acres, small operation, like 30 head, 300 acres maybe.
And this is separate from working with your parents, your family?
No, this was right in this. At that time, we were tied completely in. Like all the cows ran together. All the land was kind of just one big.
Sure.
Yeah, we were just kind of a small division of
right.
Land.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So what I guess. Through that process, then he told you a couple really good schools and books to read and stuff. What started to change, if anything? Yeah,
like I'm sure you've heard this with just about every guest, but Ranching for Profit was the big turning point. I've been at that point, I'd been to a lot of schools from holistic management, the hand-in-hand marketing school, a handful of other stuff that I'd been to, which were all really good and took a lot of stuff out of it. But there's something different at Ranching for Profit the first time you take it. And once you've been there, there's something about Wednesday, Thursday that just like switches. Yeah. And you're changed forever, right?
Right. So do you remember specifically what it was? I'm curious. Everybody has different takeaways. It seems like based on where they are in their career and life, they'll have different takeaways from a week there, but
yeah. Like I remember the moment where it was like I went in there. Okay, I've got purebred cows. We calve in the winter, but I'm going to take as much out of this as I can and apply it to our. I didn't know the word at the time, but to apply it to our context. And whenever they do that, like grazing curve and the forage availability and the cow demand thing,
right,
and then married that up, and I was like, Again, I guess we're changing calving seasons.
Yeah, right.
Not expecting to do that at all going into the school, and coming out of it is like, this makes too much sense. I can't ignore it.
Well, and I'm curious specifically with that on the purebred side. I've talked to a lot of purebred producers who are like, I totally get what you're doing. It totally makes sense to calve later. The financials make sense. Like even the cow type makes sense. But I have a customer base that is used to buying yearling bulls at this time, and I need to provide that. So I can't shift you had to shift your whole business model, your sales process, I assume, to shift to calving season.
Yeah, I was totally like jump in with 2 feet and figure out how to swim.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I probably would have done it a lot differently than we did.
Okay.
But it was also part of, being young and learning and growing and going through business, right? I do very, very clearly remember Dave Pratt he was there for the first half of the school, and Alan Crockett taught my first school.
Okay.
But so Dave Pratt was there, and I got to know him, and I remember him taking me aside at lunch one time and saying, like, you should look into EL. Like EL would be something that would be a good fit for you. And I was like, okay, but like when you have a tiny little business, $5,000 or whatever the price was at that time was like trying to climb over a mountain. It was like, that's cool. That sounds cool, but I just can't do this.
Yeah. Right.
And I remember him calling me a week or two after the school and saying like, you should really join EL. And I was like, and in hindsight, I've wondered many times, like, man, where would we be today if I would have taken that advice? But I used to have a little like bookmark when I was a kid. It was a Wile E. Coyote on it that said, being a genius certainly has its advantages. And that might be a theme kind of for some of my career.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that.
Yeah, so I was, smart enough to follow his advice, which I've often wondered what would have happened. But here we are.
Yeah.
And then I also remember taking the school. So that was in 2015. In 2018, I took it again in Rapid City with Dallas Mount as the instructor. Okay. And like that was 3 years difference. And I was like, man, I should have been here a year ago. Like if you've taken the school once, I think you'd need to take it that second time to really let it all sink in.
Yeah. I need to get back. And as you were talking about that, I was just thinking, I wonder if I could propose to my wife that our winter vacation this year is a ranching for profit school and how that would fly. I might have to suggest that, but
that's the old mixing business and vacation time thing.
Right.
My wife is often hard to convince on that too.
Yeah.
It
can be tough. I've been lucky. I don't think we've gone on a trip yet. Oh, that's not true. We have, but most of the trips that we go on involve at least one, if not 2 or 3 ranch visits. So that's always fun. But okay, so the ranching for profit school really started to shift your mind. So what I guess in your business then over time started to change after all of this. And
so we changed calving season, got really, really focused on grazing management, improved some things that way. I think looking back, some of the things that I maybe would have done or maybe should have done differently was I think we were probably trying to starve a profit into a business.
Sure.
Like the problem when I ran through our numbers and, did all the work to figure out our ratios and all that kind of stuff, like it was like, oh man, our overheads are too high. Our overheads are too high. Or, this ratio's out of whack. No, we were too damn small.
Sure.
Like it doesn't matter how low you have your overheads. If you have 30 cows, it doesn't, like you can't pay for a full scale operation with too small a number. So our turnover was just too low. And then as we learned that and just pushed through and was like, we are growing this business to whatever number we needed to grow it to. All of a sudden, like I know the year when we went from on the grain side, we went from having 800 acres and struggling to expand and get up to scale. And then we took on another couple, that's kind of another story in itself. But when we took on that extra land and we went up, from 800 to 1400, it was just like, wow, everything works now. Like we're at this scale where all of a sudden, like we're at minimum viable scale to make this work.
Yeah. The overheads, I guess it's a fixed cost until, that makes sense. Huh.
The payments are the same in a tractor, whether you have 1 cow or 1,000.
Right. Yeah. So I'm curious on that. Like, and this is from ignorance. And, I look at how my dad grew our business largely. And to his credit, like scale was an option that a lot of people went, but it involves debt, leverage, expansion, aggressive, a lot of risk and challenge. And my dad went the route of finding niche, high value products that he could produce organic row crops, seed stock, et cetera, that allowed him to be profitable at a smaller scale. And like the idea of scaling in a commodity business in which you have no control over pricing, and you could scale up the year it goes into a 3-year down cycle, and I don't know, and all of a sudden you just increased your loss over a large. How did you view scale at that point in a commodity business? And I'm sure lots of people listening are just like, it's just part of it. I come from a little different background where that scares me, and like the idea of expanding a row crop business specifically is a little, because you have such little control over inputs and pricing.
Well, if I've been good at anything, it's been good at running the numbers, and not that I'm anything special. It's just I've put my head down and done it.
Right.
I've had this conversation with Dallas, like since we've been in EL, of like, how do we get better at, how do other people, I've had people come to me and like, this number thing doesn't work, or, everybody struggles with having their numbers ready, especially in EL, right?
Right.
And I said, well, maybe we were shooting back ideas. And he said, well, Brett, how did you do it? I was like, I built the spreadsheets. Now you guys give them out. I had to build my own.
Right.
And then go put all my numbers in.
Yeah.
I was like, I just did it. He's like, exactly. That's how you do it. You want to get good at numbers, you do your numbers a lot. And we've done them a lot. I'm not going to say that I'm the best in the world at them by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. But I know that I've put in enough work to know when something's right and when it's not. So
go ahead. Sorry.
Back to your question of like, how did we scale as we how do we make this work as we grew? I was constantly looking at, what's profitable, where's the margin at, where's the opportunities at, and just always looking. Right. And then kind of one of the phrases I've had stuck in my head is, if the one door closes, look for a window and find your way through.
Yeah.
Like just there is a way to do it. Mm-hmm. So you find the opportunities, and when you see those opportunities, you go after it.
Yeah.
To remain in business and leave a legacy for the next generation, today's rancher and farmer must not only be efficient, but strive to be sustainable by preserving our natural resources. Healthy soil is the foundation of every strong operation, and education is the key to learning about new innovative ways, not only to maintain, but to continue to build that healthy foundation. At the Bottom Line Conference in Lakin, Kansas, we're going to dig into the essentials, like building organic matter, water infiltration, retention, and the variables that drive long-term productivity and sustainability. You're going to hear from past podcast guests Grant Harder and Kit Farrow as they share real-world strategies for building resilient soils and profitable herds. And this year, we're proud to present nationally recognized speaker Jolene Brown. She's going to be delivering a very powerful guidance on family business transition planning, so be sure and bring your business partners and the entire family. Strong soil, strong legacy. Your bottom line starts right here in Lakin, Kansas. The dates are Thursday, August 20th and Friday, August 21st at the Kearney County Fairgrounds on the west side of Lakin, just south of Highway 50. Now, for all the details, go to bottomlineconference.org.
Yeah, so I guess this was like you probably, when you started to go through that ranching for profit stuff, looking at the math, your gross margin looked good, I would imagine. But then it's when that overhead is included that it didn't. And so you knew which enterprises have gross margin that you could scale and make that decision with a little more confidence, I guess.
Well, yeah, some of that is like, and that's where we transitioned from the purebred cattle to the commercial cows.
Okay.
With our purebred enterprise, like we were doing decent with them, but we never hit the targets that I wanted to hit. And we tried, a few dozens of different ways of how do we make this better? How do we make it more efficient? How do we get more margin in it or more profit or like more gross sales? There's many different ways you can manipulate that business to make it better. Mm-hmm. And we tried enough of them. And then at the same time, there was, some opportunity to expand to some commercial cows. And I think the big overriding thing was we were trying to expand our land base and really trying to expand our land base, looking for stuff, talking to neighbors, being out in the community, trying to keep your nose clean and do all the things that, help you expand your land base. And just felt like, and not that it necessarily was like this, but it definitely felt like we just kept getting the door slammed in our face.
Sure.
And then we had an opportunity. I think we had the cows, we bought the cows, and it was like, I guess we need pasture for this year. let's go find some. Now we have these cows.
Right.
We better find some feed.
Yeah.
And then looked around for some pasture. And this guy called me, and he had an ad out, and he called and said, yeah, I got some pasture here in Lac du Bonnet. And I'm like, that's 4 hours away. Like, holy, no, sorry.
Yeah.
Make it work. He's like, well, it's custom grazing. Okay.
So he would manage the cattle, you're saying?
Yeah. So we sent these cows out 4 hours away. They dropped off at his place for summer camp.
Yeah.
And it really helped that we just locked into a really, really good operator first time.
Yeah, sure.
So we sent out a potload of cows and 10 bags of mineral. And I went out in August with a bull and 10 more bags of mineral. And then we come in October and we picked up all of our cows, all of our calves, the bull, and I think 3 extra bags of mineral that he gave us back because he didn't use them.
Okay, sure.
This works.
Yeah.
And then that really opened the door for us to say, like, hey, we don't have to do this all ourselves. If we can find these expansion opportunities where we can send cattle to the north or to these areas where there's more pasture available,
sure,
we can grow the feed at home for the wintertime.
Right.
Here's our opportunity to expand. And then that was where, with commercial cows, nobody cares what they look like in August. When you're selling bulls, as you know, guys come around in August, oh, let's see these bull calves. We pop in the truck, let's go for 4 hours. We'll be there this afternoon. That doesn't work with purebreds.
Right.
All these commercial cows, cow's a cow. Doesn't matter. That was fine.
Yeah. So the move to the commercial cows didn't necessarily come because the profit per cow was higher. It was the expansion ability, the ability to expand commercial cows far more than you could if you were just doing the purebred.
Yeah, there was
part of. Or am I understanding that correct? Sorry.
There was some stars that kind of aligned there too, but the big thing is we saw the ability to expand without having to expand at home, like our home base.
Yeah.
And then there was multiple things that added into that. The margin was as good or better with commercial cows as they were purebred. There was less work involved. There was more opportunity to scale.
Yeah.
Timing of the market helped. Like we were buying $1,100 to $1,400 one and done cows and scraping 3 calves out of them and selling them for $2,000 as helps kind of work.
Yeah, this is recent, like the last 3-4 years kind of a thing you're talking about.
Yeah, this is since we've been married, so since 2020.
Okay. Yeah.
So, nope, like 2019, 2020, we're buying.
Does work pretty well.
Yeah, buying cheap cows and then like calving season wasn't for the faint of heart. There's a lot of old swing bags we had to get the calves going and stuff like that, and pretty high death loss.
Okay.
And like it was a complete mindset shift when you're going from a purebred cattle operation where everything wants to be perfect, everything's got to be pretty, everything's got to work, and we were really, really good at operating like that. And then you go to a commercial cow operation, or especially buying some one and done cows that were on their last legs. Some of them probably should have been done a year ago, but we still had them.
Okay.
You had some bad bags, you had some bad feed, you had all these cows, and you had, super high death loss at calving.
Right.
Like it was like from what we were grown up with, everything was going wrong and we're making more money.
Interesting.
Wait a second. Paradigm shift here.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. My grandpa, I think my dad always talked about how my grandpa always said it doesn't cost any more to feed a purebred cow than it does a commercial cow, but you can sell the purebred for a premium. And that's maybe true in terms of like the direct costs and stuff, like the feed. It's not going to eat any more than a commercial cow, but all those stuff, like the things, the labor that goes into it, the extra paperwork, hassles, headaches, all the stuff that goes into it. It definitely adds up, I imagine too. And
it was a really tough decision to finally sell the cow herd, the purebred cows, because you can sell them any day.
Yeah.
But to buy, if we change our mind and buy back in, that takes years to do. To get to where we were, right?
Yeah.
So it was hard, and then but when we finally are like, no, this has to happen. We can't ignore this anymore. We did, and within that year, even 6 months, it was like, no, this was the right decision. And even as at that time, purebred cattle kept going up and up and up and up. The purebred market kept getting better, and we were still like, no, I'm very confident that this was the right choice. It helped that we sold our purebred cows to really good friends of ours that I grew up with, went to college with, and they have a purebred operation a couple of hours away from me. So it was good to know that they went to a good home, and I could gladly send my customers there and say, hey, we don't have purebreds anymore, but these guys will look after you really well.
Right.
That,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
No, that makes sense. So on the expansion piece, I guess if you can talk a little bit about that, you don't have to give specifics about how you got land unless you're willing to, but also how did you logistically manage going from 800 acres of crops and 30 cows to just expanding these commercial operations? And it sounds like over an hour away as well.
Yeah. So this, like I say, we were looking for land, as many people are. It's very competitive. Everybody's been through this, right?
Yeah.
And my lovely wife come to me one night and said, "Hey, I have an idea. Don't say no yet," which is always a good start to a conversation.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She said, "There's some land at Cardale." I'm like, spit out my drink. Like, do you know how far that is? Don't just look at it. See it? Like, look at this.
Yeah.
So I went next day and did my numbers as I should. And like this, it was a 500 acre parcel of land and we were farming 800 acres. Like this is a third of our farm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we ran the numbers through. Like, we have the equipment to do this. It's an hour up there, but if we do it all as one crop, we farm everything at home, go up to this Northland, farm it there, come home. Okay. I think we can make a go of this.
Yeah.
So we put in our proposal. And by the time we put in the proposal, it was kind of like, oh, I kind of hope we get this. Like,
right. Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we did.
Okay.
And so, it's totally different land than at home. Very productive, but very potholey, lots of stuff to go around.
Yeah.
It was a totally different challenge, but it was totally an adventure. Like we had fun every time we were up there.
Right.
So,
was this a lease or a purchase opportunity?
It was a lease. It was actually through Ducks Unlimited Canada, where it's land that they purchased as grain land and they were converting it to pasture.
Okay.
So our job was to be there to farm it for 2 years and then clean it up, like get rid of all the weeds, get it clean, get it ready to seed down as forage establishment.
Yeah.
Which I will say, like, they've been fantastic to work with.
Yeah.
Especially our representative with Ducks. It's been a really good working relationship we have. So that definitely helped.
Cool.
But like that first time I was like, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And there was definitely some learning curves along the way. But then after we did it the first year and did it the second year, I was like, okay, now when we see something come up, it's like, well, if it's the right size block, it fits into it. So our farm this year, so we've since lost that. Like, it's a short-term lease, which is the downside of that is, you have it for a certain time, but then it's gone.
Right.
But so now our farm this year, we are at Hamiota, Rivers, Rapid City, and Brand Souris area. So we've kind of got like 3 corners and then a piece right in the middle.
Okay. And I don't know this area. How far stretched did you say that was?
That would be like an hour. The triangle would kind of be an hour, and then the one piece in the middle is kind of right dead center of the middle of them.
Yep. Sure.
And then it helps this year. We picked up a pasture that we're working with Manitoba Beef and Forage initiatives on that's right beside the one piece of grain land we have.
Yeah.
So we're doing some exciting, fun things there we can get into later.
Nice. Okay. So, that first trial was kind of just a testing almost to see, can we manage something this far away and does it work? And you found out it wasn't that terrible. So that opened the door to pretty much a circle around your base, the same direction or the same distance. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of the proof of concept, very similar to the commercial cows. Like, we didn't start with a whole herd of commercial cows, because we tried with some, and then can we get proof of concept? Like, is this going to work on a large scale? And even though we're doing this with, 50 cows or 500 acres or whatever, can we do this with more?
Yeah.
And what's the challenges and how do we overcome it? So now as we've built that up, like, everything we own right now is either on wheels or skids.
Okay.
With the exception of our house. And this year we're renting a shop.
Okay.
So like on our farm right now, this year we're putting in just shy of 3,000 acres, and we've got 220-ish cow, like between cows and replacement heifers.
Okay.
We're down a hair on cows this year.
Sure.
And everything we own, from bins, all of our equipment. We have a service truck. We don't have an actual shop, although we've just picked up, we're going to start renting like a physical shop. We rented one last winter to get through the winter months, and we're going to continue with that. Okay. So everything is, like I say, everything we have is on either wheels or skids. And
did you say grain bins? Your grain bins are portable too?
Yep.
Are these really like just kind of the small hopper bottom type ones, or how do you have portable
like
grain bins?
Anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 bushel hopper bins.
Wow. And so you would just put them on a trailer and haul them somewhere different if you needed to then? Okay.
Yeah. So like our one piece that we know we're losing next year, we're actually moving those bins here at the end of the month to a piece we just picked up this year that we have a longer term lease on.
Sure. Okay.
So then we're using like oil field rig mats to set them on. So we have a base. So if we don't want to put gravel down, we don't even have to do that.
Wow. Huh. That's awesome.
Because everything
Yeah. Is there something different did you have to set up something different specifically to be able to manage so far away, like for equipment and stuff, or do you just hook up to the planter and hit the road, or do you truck trailer stuff around? I mean, is there anything different logistically about managing an hour away than something 10 minutes away or 5 minutes away?
The service truck has been a total game changer.
Okay.
Like now our shop is on wheels and comes with us wherever we go.
Yeah.
Which we didn't have the first 2 years.
Sure.
So like the first 2 years, it was, a toolbox in the back of the truck.
Right.
So now
it's like, I forgot the 9/16. Dang it. Yeah.
100%. That's happened a lot.
I believe it.
It's a lot. Pre-planning is your friend.
Yeah.
Getting to the field and realizing, the canola roller's in the other truck at home.
Yeah.
Done.
Right. That's, yeah.
But it's a lot of pre-planning and a lot of logistics.
Yeah.
And getting to know the cultures of the area was one I didn't know.
Okay.
Like, we grew soybeans up at some of the north fields and go to sell them. And they're like, no, like the train left, like the October train just left last week. Okay. Well, when's the next train? They're like, next October.
Man. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Lesson learned.
I guess we're going to have to find another market.
Right.
At our elevator where we were used to, it was like, there's a soybean train every other month. There's one in December and there's one in March and probably one after that.
Sure.
Like, okay, that's different.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Interesting.
But as far as travel, we do go back and forth, and we're kind of building our fleet to fit it. Like the new tractor we bought, it's a 50K or 30 mile an hour transport tractor.
Yeah.
So that it's not a need to have, but it sure is nice.
Right. I bet. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And on the cattle side and stuff too, how intensive of the management are you doing when you got cattle an hour away? I mean, is that something you're doing daily or every couple day checks? Or if a neighbor came to you tomorrow and offered you the opportunity to lease their land and run their cattle, do you feel confident enough in your business to know whether or not you can take that opportunity on and be profitable at it? I know for myself and so many people, you may not have that kind of confidence. And if that's you, it might be worth adding someone to your team to do it. John Haskell and his team at Ranch Right LLC can take on the bookwork for your business. They can break out your income and expenses by enterprise and know what enterprises in your business are making you money and which enterprises are losing you money, so that the next time an opportunity comes your way, you can take action with decisiveness and confidence, knowing the numbers of your business support that decision. Again, if that's something you're interested in, you can reach out to John and his team at ranchrightlc.com.
So we have, as at home, like since I've entered with Steve, we've been rotational or like intensively managing our grazing since.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions, but for the most part, everything is moved either daily or at least once or twice a week, at the least.
Sure.
So all of our pasture at home has been managed like that since 2014, 15.
Okay.
And then our stuff farther away, like the custom grazing is whatever the custom grazer wants to do. Some of it's just dump and drive and they're continuous grazing. Some the stuff, our employee, it's actually her uncle is who we are custom grazing with this year.
Okay.
And he's doing, rotational grazing on it.
Sure.
And it's a little bit closer to home. So now we go and kind of check them a little as much as we, if we have a day we can rip out there and check them, we do.
Sure.
But yeah, as far as managing them at a distance, it is for sure challenging. So this year we've got a couple of remote pastures where there's just a quarter section that we dump them out and pick them up in the fall.
Sure.
But the fun thing we're doing with MBFI this year. So my wife does the podcast. I'll give her a little plug. The Beef and Forage Roundup.
I've not heard of that one. I'll have to listen.
Okay. So
I love a good beef podcast.
Manitoba Beef and Forage Initiatives.
Okay.
Is who she works for, and then she puts out the podcast for them.
Perfect.
So it's the Beef and Forage Roundup with Chantel Mcrae.
I'm just searching it, and
so she
got it.
Does that, and then kind of that helps get the connection there, where they had this land that they had. I can't remember if Ducks Unlimited still owns it or what the lease agreement is with them, but Ducks Unlimited is involved, MBFI is involved, and they said we're looking for somebody that's like commercial scale and can actually test this stuff, like, because we're doing research on like, small scale, little tiny stuff and really new innovative stuff. We want to see somebody that can use this at a commercial scale, but still give us some data. And they knew how much that we've, been in ranching for profit and executive link, and, knew that we were up on our numbers and could provide some useful data for them.
Right.
So that was kind of, I think, how we got our foot in the door there, which helped.
Yeah.
But now we're using, it's 450 acres of pasture. That's an hour north of us, or 45 minutes north of us. And this year we're doing a study on using polywire, so like intensive moves, and it's very high percentage alfalfa, like 80% alfalfa pasture. He's hot.
Okay. Yeah.
So like I would gladly try it with 3-day moves, but when I saw the alfalfa there, it's like, okay, so we're moving every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
So we're trying that. We've done that with moving every day with polywire. And now with MBFI, they have some eShepherd grazing collars.
Okay.
So now we've got those cattle on grazing collars, and we're using virtual fence.
Sure.
So we've actually just, like, on our way home today, we're going to open it up so that they're, 4 sides of their fence is all virtual fence around them.
Okay.
So
you were training them up until now, and
yeah, we trained them. Well, they had the collars on before they went up to pasture. That just when we did branding day, that's when we put the collars on because it's easy.
Yeah.
So they had the collars on while they were going through the polywire pasture. And then that was a nice place to train them because we just kind of cut that pasture down a bit. So they had one side of 3 sides, 4 sides of fence. One side of them was the collar, and the other 3 were polywire, which they're used to. Moved them every day. And then we're tracking our labor, time, equipment use, everything we do when we're up there. We're recording that. So then my later summer or this winter project is going to be a lot of number crunching to go to okay, how much, what is the actual economic impact of polywire versus, full on grazing collars.
Right.
It's given us a chance to see, kind of test, have a really good trial run of these collars. And I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask, it's early, but what have you found, or what do you think? And do you account for, obviously there's labor benefits, but when you account for the cost of the collars, because that's one of the probably bigger concerns, what do you think when you consider that?
That one's going to go in there. So I haven't ran all the numbers yet. Okay. This is with no economic analysis. Okay. This is just like a labor, gut feel thing right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Driving every day to go move polywire, especially driving 45 to an hour away, is quickly becomes a real pain in the butt.
I bet. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not impossible, but you really are get sick of doing it. Especially it's like, hey, look, it's Sunday. We want to go to the lake. Well, we swing past the pasture on the way to the lake.
Right.
Move the fence, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I really noticed quickly is with polywire, something gets on the wrong side of it. Well, now you got to somehow sneak them back or get them under, go around. Right. And if it's not set up with really good infrastructure, it can turn into a real rodeo pretty quick.
It sure can.
With grazing collars, and we'll know this better when we get out of, because right now we got some temporary polywire still up there. Once we get out of that and we're fully into the collars, I think it'll be nice there where it's like, oh, they get out, they come back through the virtual fence. Not a problem. Yeah. Oh, the calf's on the wrong side of the wire? Yeah. Not anymore. Unless they're outside of the perimeter fence, it doesn't matter. They can go creep graze. They can easily get back to their mom. There's no constrictions. Right. I think that's going to be a really big benefit.
Right.
And, obviously on the labor wise, we can, in an hour, you can set up and build a week's worth of paddocks and have them all pre-scheduled moves. Hit the button.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we did learn you have to have the last paddock set up for infinity or else it shuts off your cows go.
What is that? You have to have it set for
until further notice.
Right.
I see. All the colors off and the cows go all over and you look on your phone and you're like,
yeah. I bet that was a bit of a heart attack moment.
Yeah, especially when, your son was born yesterday and you're still sitting in the hospital.
Well, this just happened.
You look at your phone and go, oh, no.
No, yeah. Was there a solid perimeter fence?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then it could be worse. At least you know
when
where
they're in that pot of alfalfa, you're like, how many are we going to find tomorrow?
Yeah. No,
we were really lucky and it worked. Okay. I found out very quick it was operator error.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good learning lesson, though, especially like you're saying, at the risk of losing cows, that becomes a pretty expensive lesson pretty quick if it doesn't get
we lucked out that way and, learned how to do it properly now. The other thing that we've got a solar camera that's on because we're using offset water as well.
Sure.
So I've got a app on my phone. I just open it up. It shows me the solar camera, and you look with the camera. Oh, they got water. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we can manage them from afar.
Yeah.
I think the opportunities that are going to be a lot with virtual fencing, but some of the ones that I see right away in our area, there's lots of decent pasture with an awful fence, and everybody that owns the pasture thinks the fence is better than it is, and everybody that rents the pasture thinks the fence is worse than it is, and neither party wants to pay for it.
Right. Yeah.
With collars, that's not an issue anymore.
Right.
Who cares what the perimeter fence looks like? As long as it keeps the calves in most of the time, it's good.
Yeah.
And then you can still intensively manage it. We can probably get more utilization out of those overgrazed pastures. Knowing where your cows are all the time is handy.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to try it with corn grazing. Like, we've been grazing corn for over a decade.
Okay.
And this last winter has been our worst year for cows pushing down wires and causing us grief.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking with these collars, this could open a whole new world in the winter grazing front. I think there's going to be more value winter grazing than summer grazing.
Really? Yeah. Well, that's interesting. This year we tried, we'll have to get your thoughts on the corn grazing and stuff. Obviously, you're a fan of it. We just tried it this winter for the first time, and I had cows push through. I had multiple break paddocks and stuff, and we had a snowstorm come in, and they pushed through like all 3 fences. Luckily, the third fence, only like 20 were on the other side. We ended up losing only 1 cow out of it, but I was like, after that, I'm done. I was so over it. I was stressed all the time of killing them anyway, and then that happened. We ended up combining the rest and just called her a day with that. I don't know. Plus, at least in our area with our land costs, I don't know how cost effective it is. And the fact that the way we did it, right or wrong, is our grain production is so high that we still have to feed hay. Like so we're still feeding hay and everything. That it's not like we're getting rid of the hay feeding and we're able to just graze. The feed is still relatively expensive, and I don't know. So I guess my dad maybe would be more open to it. I probably was the one who was about fed up with it and moved on. But let's hear your thoughts on corn grazing. Clearly, you must be a fan of it if you've been doing it for over a decade, you said.
Yeah. I really like it. It comes with its challenges for sure, but we really like it in that it's allowed us to get livestock out on the land. Like, I'm a big fan of integrating livestock onto our cropland, and that's for us, it's the easiest way to do it because we need to feed anyways. If we're feeding silage, like especially in a feedlot situation, you're taking a wet, heavy product from the field to the silage pit. You're taking a wet, heavy product from the silage pit to the bunk, and then you're taking a wet, heavy product of manure from the pen right back to the same field where you started. So with corn grazing, even if your yield is less than silage, you're saving so much logistics that it makes perfect sense.
Right. Yeah. You haul a lot of water that way.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've tried many different things with it, different supplementation strategies. We've tried intercropping in our corn and using a row crop planter to plant covers in between the corn rows.
Sure.
We've done the long season, like forage type soybeans in with the corn and tried that. Last year we had strips. So we had 120 foot wide strips of cover crop in with strips of corn. So I did try to balance the ration that way. And this year we planted basically a field within a field. The headlands of the field, we planted to a covers and co cover crop blend. And then the interior of the field is corn. So our plan is to silage it here in July or August. And then we're actually going to graze the pile as the protein supplement for the corn.
Okay. Interesting.
That's the plan. We'll see if that works.
Yeah.
That was good on paper.
Right. Yeah. No, I like it. I have a lot of respect for people willing and able to do all the trials it requires to learn what actually works best. I'll probably be there's the pioneers, then I don't know, I'll be the second or third down the line, the early, mid to early adopters, I guess, after the pioneers have figured it out. So appreciate your efforts.
We're kind of used to it, especially on the grain side. Like every field we have right now has a trial, at least one trial. Like whether it's seed rate, seed variety, fertilizer, fungicide, biological stuff, everything has at least one trial in it right now.
Okay.
So we've leaned into technology pretty heavily that way. Like we use Climate Field View. And agromatics, like whatever technology is available to us. And like, this is not with brand new John Deere equipment. Like this is with retrofitting technology onto older equipment to make it work. And we've been able to have some pretty good trial data on it and, replicate stuff 2 or 3 times. We're working into trying that on the cattle side too. Like last year we did a trial where we had 200 heifers to breed. 50 of them got multi-min, 50 of them got none, 50 of them got multi-min and 80 and E. Like we had kind of different trial groups that way to see, the vet says this is going to work. Does it pay? We found out that it did. This year, everything got multi-min because it
really
2% different breed up. That's enough to pay for a bottle.
Wow. So,
and I think with the collars, what I'm most excited for in the collars is we're finally going to have the precision and the data that we've had in the grain side for the past 10, 20 years. We now have it with cows. And I'm super excited for that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, no, I agree. There's like all the, what do they call it now? Pasture map and stuff where you can manually move and enter in that. Like, I would be really cool if with those things, they can automatically, you've drawn this paddock based on the cow sizes you have entered. You know exactly how many tons of feed per acre you're harvesting. And so it would be awesome to be able to have that kind of information. Just the simpler, the better, because the more, and you see clearly figured out a way to capture data and actually utilize it. I think myself and a lot of people, it sounds great to be able to start doing all that, but it's a challenge. I struggle with that. I mean,
let me think. Don't think that it's easy because it's come with a lot of challenges, and there's been a lot of times where we have all this data and it just gets set on the shelf and never seen again.
Yeah, the more automatic or the more simple it is to harvest and utilize that data efficiently, the more it'll actually get used. That's awesome. I'm curious on the multi-min thing. So that's what age did you give it to? And you said a 2% breed up difference. That's significant. Yeah.
Yeah, those were the heifers last year. So this is coming out of like a feedlot with forced mineral. Like they were custom fed at our neighbor's feedlot where they had full mineral program. Like our neighbors do a really, really good job of feeding those cattle for the winter.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the plan was to do it with both the heifers and the cow herd, but then we ended up selling most of or all of the cows.
Okay.
I was like, well, I guess we're not doing a trial on them anymore.
Yeah, right.
Which now, we did it again with them this year. And I can't remember if we left a trial group or if we had enough product that we just did them all.
Okay, sure. So what age, how far before breeding and whatnot were you given them all?
Right when you do your pre-breeding shots, 30 days before bull turnout. So start of June. We put bulls out July 1st.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Interesting. Yeah. So on the cattle side now, you talked about you have the custom grazing, or not, you don't custom graze for other people. You send your cows and animals out to custom graze on other people's land. Did I understand that right? Or do you custom graze yourself?
Both, actually.
Okay, sure.
So
all right.
Often, it depends on the year. We'll send cattle out in the summertime to graze on other people's pasture.
Sure.
And we'll bring cattle in the wintertime and custom graze them on corn.
I see. Okay.
We've done that for quite a few years.
Yeah. Well, you must have your systems figured out enough to be confident enough to bring other people's cattle in and risk acidosis. Yeah. That was always my fear. Yeah.
Like we're Manitoba and Minnesota are close, but we're far enough away that you guys grow way more corn than we do.
Right. And for the record, for people listening, it very well may be a good thing here. I did not have the stomach or the patience for it, I think. So this is this very well may be a personal issue, not a system issue, just to clarify that. So
I did a presentation in Minnesota not this March, but the year before.
Yeah, for the Sustainable Farming Association, right?
Yeah. So Jonathan Kilpatrick's on our EL board with us.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
That was my connection there. And we went down there and talked to all the Minnesotans about corn grazing, and some of them I'm sure looked at me like I had 3 eyes. But
yeah. Well, if they're mainly corn producers, I'm sure for sure they thought you were. And people already, I think we're nuts just having cattle around my area anyway.
Actually, I think it was your dad that cornered me and was drilling me with questions. It was
yes, I think so. Yep. Yeah, he had a lot of. That was right when we were in the planning stages of this trial on our farm, and he's the really optimistic one about it. So, and no, he did. Hopefully, he wasn't too aggressive, but
no, he was great.
Good. What was I going to ask? Oh yeah. So anyway, so you do a little custom grazing primarily in the winter, but to talk about your cattle enterprises, your cow calf and your heifer development, are these kind of buyer trader type cattle type thing that you're not picky on what you get? It's sort of a sell buy mindset, undervalued mindset, or what is your management, or how do you pick and choose what you're buying?
We've adopted the sell buy philosophy. I first got introduced to that years and years ago with Richard and Tina McConnell at the Hand in Hand Livestock School. I went there for the cattle handling, and it was another day to stay for the marketing. So we're here, why not?
Right.
And it took me a long time to get my head wrapped around the concept then. And then I've paid attention a bit, then took Doug Ferguson's school, and 21 or 2, I think. My wife and I went to that.
Okay.
And then got a pretty good handle on it there.
Sure.
And then I've worked, also with, we have worked with Ranch Right. And so, John Haskell's kind of helps us work through that. We're often on the marketing call they have every Monday. Sure. We subscribe to that. And so I'm not nowhere near the world's best sell by marketer, but we use the philosophy in not just cattle, like in a lot of our business, have that mindset now of, what's replacement cost? Is this undervalued or overvalued?
Yeah.
So we're cutting our teeth at it. We're not experts by any stretch of the imagination, but I really like the idea of that let's buy up something that's undervalued, let's add value to it, and let's sell. Like our mission is to add, for our Mcrae Land and Livestock, our mission is to add value to land, livestock, and lives. So
I like that.
That's what we're really looking at doing, is how do we take a product and add value to it so that our customers have something that they're really happy with.
Right.
Most of the time, I think we do a pretty good job of that.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I might have been at the same Doug Ferguson school with you back sometime in 21 or 2. I don't remember when that was, but the philosophy, I'm the same way. I'm not applying it in terms of people with stockers specifically, where it's a lot more trading and you're constantly turning your inventory. But just the understanding of the philosophy, I think, has so many applications. And even just in our situation, more of a long-term resident cow herd, there's still a lot of application with those principles within a cow herd, of understanding that not every cow in the herd has the same value because they're bred and they're a female and stuff, and different things have, an open heifer may have more value than just selling as an open heifer. Maybe it pays to do something different with her, or bring her to fall bred or whatever. But, I really, I agree with you. Those philosophies have a lot of application, even if they're not perfectly applied, but just understanding them will help you run your business.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Okay. So I guess, what does that look like in practice? Or maybe it's constantly a different thing all the time, but how do you feel you have applied that?
That was a decision to sell some cows a year or so ago. We needed to create some cash flow with something, and what's the most overvalued animal that we had? And we felt that was our cows.
Sure.
I'm fairly convinced that the cows that we have right now, that we bought as heifer calves, a year and a half ago, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 99% sure they've been undervalued every day that we've owned them.
Really?
Their entire life. Because every time I've looked at, maybe we should trade out of these cows, every time it tells me, no, you want to keep them.
Really?
It's keep or sell. We want to keep them. And we've had to sell a few of them for cash flow reasons. With the markets where they are this year, we sold some, had a sale in March, I want to say. And had some good heifers we were quite proud of. Went there, sold maybe didn't top the sale, but we're very high in the sale. Everybody was really happy with the cows, did well in the sale, sold bred heifers for more than we've ever sold commercial bred heifers in our life. Right. I said to my wife all the way home, I drove home thinking, I think we should have kept them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But no, I bet. Yeah, it's wild right now. I don't know. It's kind of nice for me to just have a resident cow herd, because I don't have to deal quite the same amount of stress of what is the right time to sell certain things or buy things, because everything seems expensive and everything seems overvalued, but maybe it's not that difficult.
Yeah, yes and no. I had the same thing when we had purebred cows. I was like, okay, well, when do we sell the steer calves? When do we sell these cull cows?
Yeah.
Are they
right?
Using that to determine okay, how much weight should we put on these calves before we sell them? And that it even helped in that context as well.
Yeah.
That's, I think, where we probably started to learn the concept of it. They're from a 500 to a 600 pound steer. They're not paying you what it costs to put the gain on them. So sell them as a lighter calf, and you net more money.
Right.
Which is kind of a real mindset shift until you get your head wrapped around.
Yeah. Right. Right. Interesting. Man, is there, I guess on the you just selling the bred heifers then kind of through the sale barn, or do you have any sort of, are you building a repeat, what do you call it, a inflow of heifers and outgo to certain people? Are you kind of building a system around that, or is it very
We would
sporadic?
like to.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but we would like
Sure.
to.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else on the cattle enterprise that's worth discussing?
That's not that I can think of off the top of my head. The collar one, we're right in the thick of it right now.
Yeah.
So that's the one we're most excited about.
Sure.
And I see tons of potential. Like I've been waiting for this much opportunity in the cow side,
Really?
like on the management side of them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, between the sell by marketing and the virtual fence collars, I think that's the two things we're really most excited about.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. On the collars too, the cost, I mean, specifically, like, I guess if your plan is to drive an hour and move a fence every day, totally makes more sense to do it virtually. Do you feel that the moving every day, I understand that in that particular field, it's alfalfa. And so just from an animal health and safety, you have to move daily. But from in a regular forage context with cattle an hour away, do you feel like it justifies the labor to move daily versus every 3 or 4 days or something? And then if it does, then I guess obviously the collars would make more sense. But if it doesn't justify it, are you better ahead moving them every 3 or 4 days manually versus collars daily? I guess maybe. Does that make any sense?
That makes sense. That's a good question. Because like if you have the collars, obviously daily or,
right,
you move any frequency you want, it's the same.
Right.
Same cost.
Yeah.
With polywire, yeah, for sure. There's no chance we do it daily.
Yeah.
Like you'd have to have enough, like, probably every 3 days, 4 days would be much more where you need to be.
Yeah.
It's so context dependent. And that's one thing that Steve Kenyon drove in my head right from the start is like, know your numbers and know what you can spend on something to know where does it economically make sense. Yeah. And if it doesn't economically make sense, don't do it or make it make sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there anything else on I guess we kind of jumped off of what Steve Kenyon, but your growing and learning process that's of note that people who would want to do the same thing and kind of expand and scale a business to take advantage of some of those economies of scale. Any tips, I guess, for them through your experience?
One thing would be, we can't talk about our business without talking the value of an executive link. Like so half jokingly, I said to my wife, but mostly seriously, before we were married, I said, one of the prerequisites is we have to take a Ranching for Profit course.
Sure.
So we went after that was during COVID.
Yeah.
So like COVID threw that off a bit, but then in 2021, we went there and I went for the third time and she went for the first time, took to school. And coming out of that school, we were right at a really weird transitional part of our business. It was like, where do we really go from here? And we decided that EL was the place to be. So like I came home for a week and not even a week and then hopped on a plane and down to Colorado Springs and into EL. And that was 4 or 5 years ago. We've been in ever since. It has been an absolute game changer for our business. Like we went down there for mostly the accountability and just the confidence in our decision making. Because I can pick up a lot of really wild, crazy ideas. But if I have other smart people saying, Brett, that's a good idea to do that.
Yeah.
Or conversely, if I have 5 other people saying, whoa, wait a minute, have you thought about this?
Yeah.
That's pretty valuable.
Have you had somebody come out and say, I think you should rethink that. That's a little crazy. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Every other meeting. One of them was like, oh yeah, why haven't you done that already? And the next one's like, whoa, pump the brakes.
Yeah, hold up. That's awesome. Good. It's good to know your team's not just a bunch of yes men.
Oh, totally. We've got a stellar board, like some really, really good board members. And it's a really good mix of people that will support you, challenge you. Really everybody's trying to drive the ball forward. Yeah. It's a really good thing. And I hope that we're providing as much value to their business as they are to ours. Because it's been, we would not be where we are without EL.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. I've heard only good things about it. Haven't been to the EL yet. Been to a Rancher for Profit school. Need to go back again, ideally with my wife. Thought it was your wife. Yeah. One, she went with that to you and she's bringing you land ideas. That's you've maybe got a keeper for yourself there. So that's good.
Yeah. I think we're set up. Okay.
That's great.
One pro tip though is don't tell her that you sit at separate tables until you're in the corner and halfway there.
Yeah.
She was so mad at me.
That's hilarious, man. Good pro tip. I appreciate that, man. Well, if there's nothing else that comes to mind, or was there anything else that you came here thinking we'd talk about that I haven't asked you about yet?
One other thing, actually, I was listening to your podcast with John Locke here on our way up yesterday.
Yep.
And he had mentioned it, and I will maybe echo what he said, is the labor side of our business has been definitely had its challenges.
Okay.
And as I was starting to scale our business, I was under the mindset of, well, once we get the business scaled, we can bring in an employee and we'll have time, or then we'll be able to hit the next level.
Yeah.
Totally the opposite. Until we brought someone in to help, I did not have time to do all the walkie work because I was always chasing my tail doing all the working in the business.
Yeah.
And like for us to scale, to go out and find and talk to landlords and be involved in the community and all of the stuff you need to do to scale and grow your business, you need somebody you can trust at home. We're so fortunate that we have a really, really good team. We're right now at the spot where we're looking for kind of one more team member to really fill all the seats on the bus, so to speak.
Sure.
But we have a really good team, which is a mixture of, full-time staff. We have an intern this year. We have some people that come seasonally, seeding and harvest. And it's a really good mix, not just the people on our, right on the payroll, but even like the consultants and, people that work for us kind of as a third party.
Yeah.
It's really good. And I've really leaned into that team culture. I know you're also a fan of the Truth About Ag podcast with Christian Hedrick.
Yeah.
And that's been probably one of my favorites here this past year. And I've taken a lot out of that as what do they do on a, mega scale farm? And what can you take out of that and apply it to our, medium-sized farm? And that's really helped. But having the labor without, good, reliable labor, it's hard to scale and grow. And so we're in a position now where we're pretty much always looking for good people and finding a spot for them and using that to help us grow.
Wow.
We've been in the employee of the month category, same as everybody has too.
Yeah.
So we've got one position open now that we're looking for somebody that kind of can look after mostly the grain and mechanical side of our operation.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Okay.
Out if anybody's looking.
Yeah. I was going to say maybe somebody listening to the Ranching Returns podcast wants to play crop farmer and go work for you.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you sharing that because that's a question. It's not a question. I feel like I know the answer. I just haven't been willing to do it yet. And I'm hoping here in time. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to know I guess you probably as an individual have to decide if you want to be a people manager or if you just want to be a laborer. And because as long as you choose not to hire people, you're going to be limited by your labor. And you're going to limit your ability to have that flexibility to step away or to do more of the business management and stuff. But yeah, I don't know what the right decision is.
That would definitely be one as many answers. What is your context? What is your mission and vision? What's the mission and vision for your business? What are the contexts and limitations you have? And what do you really want? Like some people want to have a dozen people and things go in every direction.
Yeah.
Some people want to just be a mom and pop shop, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's things that we did when we had 3 of us. Like my wife and I and an employee and half the size we are now that were as good or better than they are now. Like, I don't think that bigger does not mean better. I've learned that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Sometimes there's parts of bigger that, helps be better, but you have to know what you want and what your vision for the business is. And then as long as if you're serving your mission, you're serving your customers, you're serving God and you're serving your owners, what else do you need?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that is the discussion is deciding individually what it is that you are looking for, what you want, what your vision is for your business and your life, and decide which problems you want to deal with because nothing is easy necessarily. I'm sure it's just exchanging problems, certain problems for other ones. But
one rule that's stuck in my head is, especially when it comes to growing and adding in an employee. If they can do it 80% as good as you can, you should not be doing it. And I've learned that one.
Yeah.
Learned that one a lot. Like if somebody can do the job 80% as well as I can, I should not be worried about it whatsoever. They need to learn, they need to grow, and they can look after it.
Okay. Sure.
So,
how much autonomy or are most of your people kind of people that are do everything, or do you have specific, like you are the manager of the livestock or the heifers or the crops or whatever? I mean, how does that look like in your?
I'd like to say it's organized enough to be like that, but it's been really kind of a gong show some days, but not always. We have one young lady that looks after primarily the livestock side.
Okay.
She really likes cattle.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of her strong suit and what she is most passionate about doing. So I try to give her as many of the cattle jobs as we can. That
Sure.
being said, seeding and harvest for sure. She can, she's, everybody knows that you're going to be on a drill or a combine or something like that.
Yeah.
But she's been really good of, hey, I need help. Can you run the sprayer? Yeah, I don't mind doing it if I have to. So and then vice versa. Like there's people that'll come on and just want to work on the grain side. It's like, well, we have cows too. So even if you're just driving the pickup truck and stock trailer,
right,
you're still helping on branding day, right?
Right. No, that makes sense. Awesome. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll move into the 4 kind of wrap up questions here, if you're okay with that. What are your thoughts, questions? What's that?
Now the hard part.
That's right. Yeah. These are ones, now I've been doing it long enough, so you should be prepared. But first one then, I guess, what are your thoughts on debt and leverage?
So you've probably heard this before, but I'll say it again. It's a very, very powerful tool, but it's a tool that demands some respect. We've used debt and leverage to help us grow. Without it, there's not a chance we'd be where we are without debt and leverage.
Sure.
And I will be the first to say we're probably in more debt and leverage than we should be right now, but that's where we are because that's where we're growing.
Sure.
We're purposely planning to level out for a year or two now to kind of catch up and get our leverage situation back in a position where we'd like it to be.
Sure.
But we needed that tool for us to grow the way we did.
Yeah. Interesting. So, I mean, you kind of stretched yourself, it sounds like, to take on another opportunity. And I mean, now what happens when the next opportunity comes your way and you're not quite, I mean, do you have you set like limitations that now I need to hold up, I guess? Or how do you set your boundaries?
Maybe guide rails more than limitations.
Yeah.
Like you got to risk it for the biscuit, right? If you're going to grow, you got to grow and you got to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
I think we're at the point now is where we can be a little more selective in our growth. Like there was a time where it didn't really matter what it was. We just needed anything was better than nothing.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to if you're going to farm or you're going to ranch, you got to pay to play the game. Like you have to pay your dues to get in. And sometimes that's paying stupid high land rent or more than you think the cow's worth. But it's sometimes the choice is you either do that or you're not in the business at all.
Yeah.
You got to get into it. And then from there, I think we're in a position where it's like if an opportunity comes up, we might we would jump on that, but might give up some of the other land that we have and let that. And I would hope that goes to another young operator, like somebody that's starting to get their feet wet and get going.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. What are your thoughts on land ownership?
I'd sure like to.
Yeah.
We're actively looking for a farm to be our home base.
Sure.
Right now, like I said, we're going to be renting a shop and kind of yard to work for right now, but we'd like to have our own farm, mostly for kind of the lifestyle side of it. Like we'd like to have somewhere where we could have some small, like some chickens or sheep or something for the kids to grow up around and have their chores and have enough space for the horses and stuff like that.
Right.
And then the stability that comes with, hey, we have this piece of land. Oh, you want to build some bins or shop or corral system. Yeah. You can plant some stuff in the ground and not like having everything on wheels and skids is nice, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
Right. And would you be better off, do you think, like say you right in your center where your home base is now or something, say you bought a farm, would you be better off building infrastructure there and trucking from an hour away? Or are you still better off having portable everything at each farm site, I guess, or at each, whatever you call that, satellite farm?
That's a good question. I don't know. Probably a mix of both.
Sure.
For the medium term.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice to have a day where it's like, hey, everything's within a 10-mile drive.
Yeah.
Like we can dream for that.
Yeah, right.
Because there are some times when you got an hour drive home, it's like, this is hard.
I wonder if you could swap, sorry, I'll let you finish this question. Then I got another hypothetical for you that I'm curious your thoughts on. So
sure. Yeah. That's all I got. Let's hear your
Oh, no, I was just curious, like hypothetically, say you could swap all 3 of your distance farms for the same amount of acreage close to home. Would you drop those and just farm close to home? Or would you pick up the ones close to home and still farm? I mean, I feel like it's not in a farmer's nature to give up ground or give up something.
It would come down to economics.
Sure.
I know for sure right now we have land that would be, if we had to give something up, we have it prioritized to what we would give up first.
Sure. Yeah.
And mostly that's with economics of the land production, land rent, logistics of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to, as long as we can keep gaining land to replace it, I'm not afraid to give up land.
Sure.
I would like to keep stuff long term because we can do a lot more beneficial, like ecologically wise.
Yeah.
There's a lot of benefits we can have from having it long term. And I'd love to manage stuff long term.
Yeah.
Like our best land stuff that you really get in the groove with and you know that land.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think a lot of guys, especially when they might look at our business, would say like, oh yeah, you're just here to, flash in the pan. You're here, you're gone. You're traveling back and forth and that. But we really, when we have something long term, we can get a feel like until you've been on and operated and been boots on the ground on that land, you need to have a feel for it. And that connection that a really good operator has with the land, knowing, it's ready, it needs grazed, it needs rest, it needs this. There's something like when you can put your boots on the ground and just feel it, like something's off here. That's when I think you're really at the peak of management.
Right. Another kind of question around the land piece. Do you worry about like that the majority of your business is based on lease land and there's not that like owned land, or does that not really concern you?
It's always a concern, but we've had to develop the mindset. Like it probably bothers me a lot less now than it used to.
Sure.
Because now we have the land changes hands every day. Yeah. We just need to be in a position where we're on the call list.
Right.
And I'm not saying we're great at it yet, but that's the mindset we have of, there's always going to be land trading.
Yeah.
We just need to be in a position where we're ready.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. And your mentor, Steve Kenyon, I believe he's all on leased land as well, right? And that doesn't stress him out too much. So
some of the best and worst advice he gave to me was, use leased land to your advantage and don't worry about, don't buy land, go lease land because it's so much cheaper and all the benefits of leasing land.
Yeah.
However, in 2014, 15, I'm looking back with get my arms around.
Yeah. Those are my favorite memes of like the I don't know what I was doing screwing around in kindergarten when I should have been farming or buying farmland and stuff. Right. Well, maybe our kids will be saying the same thing. Should have bought it for $16,000 an acre, but we'll see. Anyway, next up, then, what are your thoughts on off-ranch investing or farm? I guess off farm and ranch.
I don't. That would be a tough one for me to answer. We don't right now. We've kind of taken the John Haskell mindset of keep your eggs in one basket and watch the basket, and really be involved in your business. And I've kind of got to the point now where we're just flat out of bandwidth for stuff that's not directly in our family and business. Mm-hmm. With 3 little kids running around in a growing business, there's not a lot of time for off ranch stuff. There will come a time where that fits us, but there's probably things that I should be looking at, but you just run out of bandwidth sometimes.
Right. Yeah. No, I believe in that bandwidth thing and the power of focusing. And this is a person who I've gone too far down the path of not focus and having too many different things going on that it's like, oh yeah. I remember back when I was doing one thing and working 16 hours a day at it. And it was like, that was a lot less mentally exhausting than working fewer hours, but having 5 different things you're thinking about. Like, it's just difficult. So, I hear you.
Guilty on the too much diversity in our farm.
Right. Yeah.
Like when we started working with Ranch, John Haskell was like, whoa, how many enterprises do you have? And I was like, it's just this. He's like, that's too many. We need to let's cut this in half.
Right. Yeah.
Our P&L was like 3 people.
Well, and that's what blows my mind is when you've already got that kind of diversification and then you're doing trials on top of that within every field anyway. Like, I don't know how you keep track of everything just from a logistical and like you're talking about your mental bandwidth. That's just a lot to keep track of. It's incredible. So,
I'm just used to it at this point. Yeah, my wife and I'm sure would have the same feeling.
Yeah.
Like, can you just stop?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, the last one then is, what are your thoughts around the idea of enough?
This is another good question. I'm going to go back to leans. It depends on your context. Like what is enough for you? What's enough for you and what's enough for me are probably 2 different things. I think if, like I had said before, if you're accomplishing the goals that you have and you're serving God, or, you feel you're serving God to the best of your abilities, you're serving your family, you're serving your business, you're doing the things you would like to do, and you're being beneficial to the community, then I think that's enough. And for some people, that could be a job in town. For some people, that could be 50,000 acre ranch or farm or whatever. Like that could be a humongous multi-million-dollar business. and anywhere in between. Like, I think it's finding what is your calling and mission in life and how can you best fulfill and serve.
Yeah. I like that.
A quote I heard one time is the only way to be happy is to give happy. If you're giving happiness out into the world, that's when you're truly going to be happy. And I think that's a good way to look at it.
Right. I like that. That's great. I don't know if I should ask another I got a question that popped into my head, if you don't mind me asking, that is kind of off track, but around the discussion of the fact that you don't own land yet. I'm curious if you don't mind sharing again, or that's totally fine. You grew a business where a lot of people expand largely based on equity they have in land to borrow against and expand and scale. Do you mind talking at all about financing and how you expanded a business drastically without that land base as a equity? If you're not comfortable, that's totally fine.
We used some because I do own a quarter section.
Okay.
That I bought from my uncle in 2007, 2011, somewhere like that, early on.
Sure.
That was kind of my first piece of land. And when I was in this point of, you need to buy land to farmland. And the way when my uncle got sick, it just kind of worked out. It was a family deal. It was kind of couldn't say no to it. Yeah. We've used that land as leverage for a little bit of operating, especially like machinery and that.
Yeah.
And that's been but that would be a fraction of of the leverage that we've been able to use. Mm-hmm. There's some really good programs in Canada right now with names escaping me. FCC is one for sure. They have an input loan program. They have a lot of lending tools that are out there. The Canadian Cash Advance program has been huge for us. That's been a big thing where we've been able to take it out in advance to grow the business, pay that advance off, and then use that. It's walk a mile, see a mile, right? Like you take one step and then you go to the next step and you just keep going forward. The big thing though is like our business is built on profitability of the operating company. Yeah. For us to work, it has to work. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So,
no, that makes sense. And probably your ability to be profitable is greater than that of someone who's strapped by a land mortgage with a really poor cash flow, because you're not necessarily tied to that, but you don't have the equity. I would imagine a lot of businesses, their economics look worse because they're tied to some, at least in the United States, land.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Like especially, and it's easy. You can look back over the last 10 years and it's like, man, if I had bought that extra piece of land, it's like a domino effect. If I bought that piece of land, I could afford the next piece of land, the next piece of land. And without it, it feels like, age is getting higher and higher and higher. And we're staying at the same, like the gap's widening from where we need to be to where we are. Right. I don't have a good answer on that. There's people a lot smarter than me that would say,
that's a fair point. Right. Yeah. No, I appreciate you answering that. It was just a curiosity one for probably one of the bigger barriers that a lot of people look at anyway, and trying to grow a farm business is the capital requirements. And so I appreciate you sharing that.
Well, like I would say, like I said, our operating business is what has allowed us to grow. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like there's maybe some better or different way to do it. That's all I know. Like it's it's just, we look like, how do you make it work? You rip, tear, grab hair, make it work, make it happen. Like you can sit around and say, oh man, I can't do this. I can't do that. Yeah. One of my mentors is Dwayne Beck from Dakota Lakes Research Farm. Yep. And he ends most of his talks with take the tea out of can. And that's totally our business. Sure. Oh, I can't do that. Well, okay. Well, how can we do it? There is a way. If somebody else doing it, why can't we?
Yeah. I like that. Good. Well, that's a good way to wrap it up. I guess, last two questions then. Do you have 2, 3, 4 resource recommendations? You've mentioned Ranching for Profit and Executive Link. I'll include those. Any more books, podcasts, conferences that you would recommend people check out?
I'm a big podcast fan. So some maybe different ones, like there's obviously you guys working cows, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I gave a plug for my wife's The Beef and Forage Roundup podcast. Yeah. My favorite these days has been The Truth About Ag with Evan Shout and Christian Hebert. Yeah. And Ranchenomics with John Haskell has been good. Yeah. Another one that I've really enjoyed is The Sweaty Startup with Nick Hubert.
I follow him on Twitter. Okay.
Yeah, he's got a good podcast. It's pretty good.
Sure. Okay. I'll have to check that one out.
Book-wise, some of the ones recently that have stood out to me, Buy Back Your Time has been good. We're trying to use the Scrum framework, like the Scrum book by, I can't remember the guy's name, Jeff something. It's a red book called Scrum. We're trying to implement that in our business. I'm not saying we're doing a great job of it, but we're trying.
Okay.
We got that one through EL, through the book club there.
Sure. Okay.
And then it's, your good classics, No Risk Ranching, drawing a blank for all the other ones. I got a whole bookshelf of ones that I really enjoy, but
yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good list for sure. Last question then. If somebody wants to reach out or learn more about you, if that's something you're comfortable with, where would you direct them?
You can follow, I'm on Twitter. If you look for, I think it's Brett_Mcrae or Mcrae_Brett, something like that. If you're on Twitter or X, that's probably me. There's the Mcrae Land Livestock has a Facebook page. If you're talking on there, you're probably talking to my wife.
Okay.
But
Sure.
she'll usually send stuff to me that it's, that we want to see.
Yeah.
That'd be 2 easy ways to reach out.
Perfect.
You can email me. It's brett.mcrae, brett.mcrae@icloud.com. And between social media or that, you can get a hold of us that way.
Awesome. All right. Well, Brett, thank you so much. This was great. Glad we were able to make it work. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Jared. I've been looking forward to this a long time. I've really appreciate your podcast and the work you're doing.
Well, Charles, thanks so much for joining me, and welcome back to the Ranching Returns podcast.
Well, appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to visiting with the folks today to talk about our topic.
Yeah, me too. Well, for folks who haven't heard you the first 2 times, I'll give you the opportunity to give an overview a little bit of what you're doing and within Noble and who you are.
So Charles Rolla, I'm a senior regenerative ranching advisor. I've been here at Noble a little over 20 years. I grew up on an operation in Northwest Oklahoma, mostly stocker operation, graze out wheat. My dad was an order buyer, and we operated a kind of a grow yard and helped a lot of producers in the area purchase cattle and also market. A lot of wheat graze out in that area. And after that, I went to Oklahoma State University, got a master's or a bachelor's in animal science, ranch management option, took a lot of business classes through Ag Econ, and then started a master's in ag education. But at that time, I did not feel like I was suited to be a teacher. And so they allowed me to develop my own curriculum around research in agriculture. And so I took a lot of classes across all the divisions, there at Oklahoma State University. And at the same time, started working at the fruit and nut research station, and realized money can grow on trees if you do it right. And you can integrate livestock into that tree system. Yeah. And so, through that opportunity, through that job, I had an opportunity to get a PhD working on pecan trees, and got my PhD in crop science through Oklahoma State University, and then came here to Noble, where I was a consultant. Started off as a horticulture consultant, mostly working with pecans, and then moved into a research role, doing applied research with our orchards, and then took over the management of the orchards for several years. And then the last 5 years, I've been as the senior regenerative ranch advisor, teaching classes and working directly with producers to educate them.
Awesome. Cool. Well, today we're going to talk about, it sounds like stocking rate, which last time we talked a little bit about overgrazing, which some people may be confused with overstocking. So maybe you can give a little bit more clarity on, the stocking rate and how to optimize stocking rate in an operation, or figure out what that needs to be.
Okay. So the one thing we teach in our grazing classes, especially grazing essentials, is the first thing a rancher needs to do is understand what their carrying capacity is. Yeah. So carrying capacity is what can your land can support. How much grazable acres do you have? What's the forage production? And then as a manager, your decision is what's your utilization of that forage. Mm-hmm. And so how much of that do I want to consume on a yearly basis or an annual basis? And then understand what livestock are you grazing? What's their daily demand? And then if we know our daily demand, then we can calculate our annual demand for that livestock, or our grazing period demand. If we're doing stockers, it might be for 120 days or 180 days or whatever. Yeah. What's that demand for that livestock? And that tells you what your carrying capacity is of your operation. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we do it a little different than some other folks. Our stocking rate, the way we use stocking rate, is what is our risk inversion to our carrying capacity. So for stocking rate, if we're doing stockers, that we know if we hit a drought period and we can put wheels under them, move them off the pasture, take them to town and sell them early, our stocking rate might be 90% of that.
Sure.
Of our carrying capacity.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
If we're a purebred breeder that every one of our animals are named, and no matter what, we're not going to sell them.
Right.
Well, maybe my carrying capacity is my stocking rate's only 50% of my carrying capacity, because I'm not willing to sell off any of my animals or do something different. I'm going to start buying in hay and feeding. And so whenever we think about being profitable as an operation, we need to think about those things. And so we use our stocking rate a little different than other folks. It's not how many animals per acre or how many acres per animal. It's really about what is my percentage of my carrying capacity, my supply? What can my ranch supply me with forage? What's that percentage that I'm comfortable with as a producer? So to give you an idea, for like a stocker operation, we typically see maybe 75 to 90% of our carrying capacity is our stocking rate. For a cow-calf operation, it could be as low as 50%. It might be up to 85%. But we have some buffer zone in there because we know we're going to go through periods that's going to be more challenging. But with that, it also opens up opportunity for us to make more profit. On years that we have abundant forage production, so we get a lot of rain in the spring, we have an opportunity to bring in lease animals or start a stocker enterprise if we want to, because we have that buffer zone already and we know what that is. And so whenever we're talking about profit, keeping that profit per acre high, the lower we can do our stocking rate, sometimes the better, but there is an optimal area for that. Usually profit peaks about around 70 to 80% of carrying capacity. Once we get higher than that, we'll start seeing that profit start to drop off because of those periods of dry or something happens that our carrying capacity actually starts to drop. Well, and then so stocking rate is truly just a management decision of how comfortable are we. And to me, that becomes a business decision. And so that's what we teach in our classes is how we tie that business decision back to our grazing management. Right. And that's through stocking rate and then the utilization that we want to utilize our forage at.
Right. That's a really interesting. I hadn't, considered, the percentage of carrying capacity you want to do based on what enterprise you have and stuff. It all makes a lot of sense. So you talked a little bit about how you manage stocking rate around drought and different kind of things that are unpredictable or may not happen. How about just planning stocking rate around typical seasonal changes that are normal? I guess if you have a X amount of carrying capacity in May, June, and July, and X amount in this month, how do you manage your stocking rate around typical seasonal changes, and including winter as well? I guess. So
you can manage that by looking. So you want to set your carrying capacity, and carrying capacity is very fluent. So it changes year to year. It should change year to year, because if we're improving our soil health, we should be producing more grass on a yearly basis. Sure. And so we should, as a manager, calculate what our carrying capacity is every year. As a good manager, I calculate my carrying capacity in every pasture throughout the year through different months or growing seasons, because that's going to change too. And a lot of that has to do with how I've previously grazed. Did I take a lower utilization? So now the next time I come in there to graze, I have more production. If I have higher forage production, that's going to change my carrying capacity for that pasture. So it all depends on what kind of manager you are, how granular you can get with the carrying capacity. But whenever we're working with producers that haven't thought about their carrying capacity, the first step is, what is your annual carrying capacity? Then you can do a temporal carrying capacity. And then you can fluctuate your stocking rate based on your management goals.
Interesting. And I'm not sure if there's anything else specifically on that. The one thing, and if there is, we can talk about that. The question I was kind of having too is maybe the explanation of the difference between stocking rate and stocking density, and how that maybe plays into this conversation.
Okay. So stock density is how many animals we put on a given area at a given time. And so, typically, if you're a continuous grazer, your stock density is really, really low. Maybe, 1,000-pound cow per 10 acres. Mm-hmm. Well, if I've got 100 cows and I put them on say I got 50 cows, that's 1,000 pounds, and I put them on 1 acre for a short time. Well, now I've got 50,000 pounds per acre. Mm-hmm. Whenever we start talking about soil health, that's where change is going to occur, is higher stock density. Generally, the producers that I've worked with, most of them are somewhere around 10,000, 20,000 pound stock density on maybe daily moves or every couple day moves. And then you get the really aggressive ones that's up in the 50 to 100,000 pound stock density. And then we actually show in our grazing essentials class 1 million pounds. Now, 1 million pounds, you're not leaving them there for a day. They're there for maybe an hour, maybe a couple hours, but there's a goal behind that. But that stock density is just for a short period of time. And then stocking rate is to know how many animals I need to put on my whole operation, not just that single paddock.
Right. Awesome. Well, is there anything else on the topic of this that you want to cover before we wrap up?
I'd say the one thing to keep in mind that stocking rate is kind of your core herd. Mm-hmm. And then, as we mentioned, look for opportunities. If we have abundant rainfall or we are improving our soil health and we see that we have more production than what we were expecting, that's where the opportunity comes in to capitalize more on a per acre basis. Our profit per acre is bringing in, lease cattle, custom grazing, started a stalker operation, or start a multi-species, bring in another species of livestock that we currently don't have. And so a lot of times whenever I've been to grazing classes, everybody has a contingency plan because they know they're going to go through a drought. And their first thing is, they sell off the herd. Well, if you have a core herd that you start with and your stocking rate is proper, you set that properly, then you have opportunity to capitalize on your extra forage by adding another enterprise. And so that's one thing I think, for a lot of producers, it's not always at the forefront of their mind. And if you're thinking about it ahead of time, whenever you notice that you have that opportunity, you've already thought through all the things you need to do, and you can move that opportunity faster to capitalize on it. In our business or grazing class, we call those decision points. And so we're thinking ahead of time, what is that decision point? And whenever we hit that trigger, say June the 15th, we've got 20% more forage than we expected. I already got a plan in action that I can go and purchase livestock, maybe stockers, before the market gets higher. Or maybe I've got 30% less forage than I expected. I need to call some animals. Well, I get them to the market faster before the market starts to go down, before everybody else has to makes that determination they need to start selling.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense, where it's really important to know your carrying capacity and know and where you are with your current stocking rate relative to your carrying capacity, and how that changes based on given weather conditions and stuff, so that you can, like you're saying, be on the front end of that. It's usually those are the people that might get some decent prices for their cattle, and the ones that are waiting till they absolutely have to sell because they're completely out of feed that end up getting hurt. So, good.
The other thing I was going to say about overstocking is there is an animal performance that we need to think about. Right. And if we are overstocked, if we're putting more animals than our carrying capacity of our operation can handle, it's going to lead to overgrazing.
Yeah.
because the animal, we can't give that plant plenty of time to recover before they start grazing.
Yeah.
And the impact on the animals is we see a reduction in animal performance. So that daily gain that we're getting out of the animals.
Yeah.
If we're a cow-calf, we'll see conception rates start to drop because those animals are stressed because they're having to eat less digestible plants.
Yeah.
We'll also see that increase in our cost, our direct costs, that feed and supplemental costs that we have to put out.
Right.
And then for us, the worst thing is the pasture degradation. Where we're losing some of those plants, those desired plants in our pastures.
Right.
And then the long-term thing is we're setting ourselves up for more drought risk.
Right.
If our pastures are healthy, they're more resistant to that drought or resilient to that drought. But if we've put stress on our pastures and we get a small drought, we're going to see that quicker and it's going to last longer for us.
Yeah. No, I know Alan Williams and Soil Health Academy always talk about cascading and compounding effects, both negatively with poor management and positively with good management. So good point.
Absolutely.
Good point. Well, if people want to learn more or are interested in signing up for a class, where would you direct them?
So go to our website. It's noble.org.
Perfect.
That's NOBLE. And all of our courses are listed on that website. We deliver them across the United States. And so you can find a course that you're interested in from our land essential class, which is monitoring the soil, and how do you go about monitoring if you're making an improvement in your soil health, to our grazing classes, which is grazing essentials, kind of the art and science behind adaptive grazing and how to get started. We talk a lot about carrying capacity and stocking rate in that course. And then we also have our business of grazing course, which is tying the business, the profitability into a grazing operation. And then in both of those classes, we talk a lot about infrastructure, because that's the biggest deal with a grazing operation is infrastructure needs. And then we also have our Noble Profitability Essentials course, which is modeled after Ranching for Profit, kind of gets you started in understanding how to budget and do enterprise analysis to understand where we are making money on our different enterprises and maybe which enterprise is costing us money.
Awesome.
And so how do we fine tune that? We also have a Market Smart class if you're into trading animals, how to determine using market data which animals are the best ones to buy or when it's best to sell. And then we also have a new orchard essentials course that if you have an orchard system, how to improve the soil health and reduce costs and improve our profits over long term through our soil health managements.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Charles. I really appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Ranching Returns podcast. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast and share it with a friend who you think might benefit from what we talk about here. Also, if you want to learn more about what we've got going on or want to reach out, you can find me at ranchingreturns.com or send me an email at ranchingreturns@gmail.com. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Ranching Returns podcast.